Welcome back to Yanks Abroad. Today, we've got stock up, stock down, who's in, who's out. The 26-man World Cup roster after the most recent international break, if it were to be selected today. Now, last time I did this video, I did a 23-man roster, and everybody was upset. They said, it's going to be 26. It's going to be 26. I'm not sure it's going to be 26, but I listened to the people. This is a channel for the people, so we're going to do a 26-man roster. And by the way, I don't mind a 26-man roster. It makes it easier for me to make the cuts. Although, not really. Even with 26 men, I still find some surprising people on the first four out. You see how we break it down. There's the locks. There's the at-large bids. There's our last four in and our first four out. Some major changes from our last video. If you haven't seen the last World Cup squad prediction video, maybe skim through it, see what my thoughts were, where I had people ranked. It's from right after the the Gold Cup. This is now after that win against Japan. So let's just get right into it. We've already wasted too much time. Obviously, there's some super obvious locks that we don't need to spend too much time on at all. The first one being Christian Pulisic. Christian Pulisic will be at the World Cup. It's a guarantee. If you're in this lock column, it is a guarantee you'll be at the World Cup. I think I've only moved one player out of the locks and into the at-large bids. But I still think that player is a lock. But there's just a little bit that tells me it's not. But Christian Pulisic, lock to be at the World Cup. Folarin Balogun, we saw his importance in these matches. He's the number one striker right now for Mauricio Pochettino. And if it's not him, then you know who it is, and that's Ricardo Pepi, another lock for the roster. These three guaranteed to be in this World Cup roster in 2026. And you can add to that list, near the top, Malik Tillman. These four. There's nothing that can happen aside from injury that they would not be in the World Cup roster. I think this far we've gotten, nobody's going to disagree. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with this next name, Chris Richards, right? Let me know right now if any of these five players are not locks to you if they're fit. I can't imagine how they couldn't be, but these five players, absolute locks if they are fit. Then, of course, we've got a man who's played almost as many minutes as anybody else for the U.S. men's national team under Pochettino, and that's Tyler Adams. Now, Tyler Adams is the first one. He's the second one on this list who's a lock to be in the squad, but not a lock for me to be in the starting 11. Him and Pepi both are kind of battling for that position to me. I think Pochettino likes Adams more than any other midfielder at this moment, but I think a lot of that's going to change over the next 9 months with the way that some of the other midfielders play for their clubs. We're kind of breezing through these locks. There's not a lot to say about them. When we get to the at-large bids, when we get to the last four in, we get to the first four out, there's going to be a lot more to say. And make sure to stick around for the two potential formations that you might see at the World Cup with this squad. Now, after Tyler Adams, we've got a player who we haven't seen a lot as of late, but is still no doubt a guarantee to be in this World Cup roster. And of course, that is Antonee Robinson, who I'm struggling to find on my screen right now. Where are you, Antonee Robinson? Here you are. Antonee Robinson, starting left back for the U.S. men's national team. One of the best left backs in the world right now, potentially the best left back in the Premier League right now. It's hard to argue whether or not he's going to be in the side, especially considering he offers more than Arfson going both ways, in my opinion. I know Arfson's great going forward, but I'd still rather Antonee Robinson bombing up that wing if I had to. And the way that he has gotten better defensively in the last 2 years is really impressive. It really felt like when Antonee Robinson broke into the U.S. men's national team that the player had so many limitations, and he has really worked hard to get rid of those limitations. Another player that, to me, is an absolute lock, even though we haven't seen him the last couple of camps, is Weston McKennie. He just offers something that nobody else in the squad offers. He's the type of box-to-box midfielder that we don't have anywhere else in this roster. And the fact that he can play right back, he can play left back, he can play as the deepest midfielder, he can play as an attacking midfielder, so much versatility, so much talent. I know he hasn't been at his best for the U.S. in the last year or so, but he continues to prove his worth at Juventus and will continue to prove his worth here for the U.S. and is right on the borderline of whether or not he's in that starting 11. And I mentioned there's going to be two formations we're going to go over. I have one where he starts and one where he doesn't, so make sure to stick around for that. After Weston McKennie, 2 more locks we've got. And I'm sure after this camp that people will now agree with me who did not agree with me after the Gold Cup, and that's Serginho Dest. I got so many people saying, Serginho Dest, he hasn't played for Pochettino. He's not a lock. He may not even make the squad at all. I think we all saw what Serginho Dest means to this team and the type of quality that he brings that nobody else does. Probably the most technically skilled player in the entire roster. A player who can play on the right, on the left. He's comfortable in a back four or a back five. He can invert. He can overlap. He's just a creative monster from a defensive position. There's no doubt Sergiño Dest will be in this squad and likely a starter, although we know Pochettino has another right back that he loves, but we'll get to him later. The last lock, and one that I feel like people may not be fully convinced is a lock, but to me still is, and that's Tim Weah. We lack a true out-and-out winger in this side. Look at the players I've selected so far. None of them are true out-and-out wingers. Christian Pulisic can be, but that's not where he's best. That's not where he's most effective. He's most effective in the half space. Tim Weah is a true outlet winger. We need one of those in the side. Whether or not he starts, we need one of those in the side. And another player, if we do go to that back five, can play a little left wing back, can play a little right wing back. A lot of versatility to bring to this squad. Those are our locks. Really would find it, I said this last time, I would find it hard for anyone to disagree, and yet there were a lot of disagreements, so let me know what you disagree on here. I just don't know. Maybe you could say McKennie or Weah just because they haven't played a lot under Pochettino yet, but man, it would be crazy if they weren't in that World Cup squad now, wouldn't it be? Let's get to the at-large bids. These are the players to me that I am very certain will be in the World Cup squad, but maybe they haven't played a lot under Pochettino recently. Maybe they haven't played great for their clubs. Maybe they're on the out and out just in the U.S. setup, but probably have the talent to get in. So we're going to get into those right now. At-large bid number one, and I'm pretty sure he was an at-large bid in the last video, and that's Yunus Musah. Pochettino loves Yunus Musah. Now, his club form has dipped a little bit in the last 6 to 9 months. Got to move to Atalanta. And I actually think that move maybe kept him away from the locks for me, because under a new manager, yes, this manager went out and got him, but under a new manager at a new team, there's always a chance that a player doesn't fit. And if he doesn't fit at Atalanta, doesn't play well, doesn't play a lot, doesn't get selected for the October camp, you could start to see us moving forward without Yunus Musah. It's interesting because those first, 6-8 matches, Yunus Musah started at right wing for Pochettino every single time. And as this has developed and as we've seen Pochettino develop with this team, it seems that he's changed what he's asking out of that right winger. And I don't think he believes Yunus Musah can play in that double pivot. So the fact that Musah doesn't necessarily fit in perfectly anywhere maybe changes his guaranteed spot in this roster. I'm still about 98% sure he'll be in this roster, but to me right now, he's at that at-large bid number. Then we've got Tim Ream, who I'm sure a lot of you thought would be in the locks category, but I'm not going to put a center back of his age in the lock category at any point for multiple reasons. Number one, Tim Ream could himself decide halfway through this year that he doesn't think he'll be ready for the World Cup. His body doesn't have it. Pochettino could make that decision. Now, Ream and Musah are about as close to a lock as you can get. If Ream wants to be there, I can't imagine a world in which he won't be there, mostly because the other center back options aren't great. Tristan Blackman, Miles Robinson, Walker Zimmerman, are those guys really going to make it over Tim Ream? No. This, again, is to make the squad. Tim Ream is nearly guaranteed to make the squad, very close to that lock category. Another player who has continued to prove that he is as close to a lock as you could get, and that's Diego Luna. Now, Diego Luna has really shined under Pochettino since that January camp last year, 9 months ago, where he came in and really kind of made his mark, then had a great Gold Cup, of course. There would have to be something that would seriously go wrong for Diego Luna not to make this squad as well. But you never know with MLS players, if he were to make a January transfer, which I still think is on the cards, doesn't fit in at a new club. Those types of things to me are the only kinds of ways that Diego Luna doesn't make this squad, but it's not a non-zero chance. It's not. Next, we've got Johnny Cardoso. And I believe that Johnny Cardoso is the only player that I had in the locks last video who has moved into the at-large bids. Now, you would think the last video, Johnny Cardoso played for Betis. Now Johnny Cardoso plays for Atletico Madrid. How could he move from locks to at-large bids? Not only does he play for Atletico Madrid, but he starts for Atletico Madrid. To me, the only reason I moved him down to at-large bids is because he has not played well yet under the U.S. men's national team. He has not played well for Mauricio Pochettino, and Mauricio Pochettino reluctant to call him for this camp. Now, I know a lot of these players who made transfers were not chosen for the reasons of settling in and all of these other things. But right now, I do have a slight concern that Pochettino is obsessed with the likes of Berhalter and Luca Della Torre, and that could hurt the chances of Johnny Cardoso making this team. Again, he's probably just a notch below these three players, but instead of a 98% chance, I'd say it's a 96% chance he's in the squad. He starts for Atletico Madrid. It would be crazy not to take him. I have him in my starting lineup for my preferred formation, which again, stick around for that. So I believe Johnny Cardoso will be in this side, but have him right now as an at-large bid. Next, we're going to go to a player that we know that Pochettino loves. I think he divides a lot of opinions amongst the U.S. men's national team fans, and that's Max Arfson, who has moved up from the last four in the last video into the at-large bids. And to me, it's as simple as this. I had him as the last four in last time because I thought him and Tolkien were really battling it out for that backup left back spot. Right now, to me, Max Arfson has caught Pochettino's eye to a point where I'd be surprised for him not to be in the squad. Of course, there are multiple more squads that are going to happen before the World Cup, and this could change. But right now, this is a player Pochettino loves. I think he's played more minutes than almost anybody else for Pochettino. And that, to me, is a huge sign that this is a player he trusts and likes what he brings to the table. And it goes hand in hand with a player that, again, splits decisions in the fan base, and that's Alex Freeman. Alex Freeman was in my first four out last video. But the fact that he was taking over Joe Scally, the fact that he played as much as he did, both in a back four and a back five under Pochettino, this is a player Pochettino really likes, similarly to Arfson. And Joe Scally was not selected and wasn't even called about not being selected, which to me is a footballing decision. Now, I'm not saying this is what I agree with, but right now I have Alex Freeman in the squad as the backup to Serginho Dest. Now, that doesn't mean there won't necessarily be a space for Joe Scally. Joe Scally can play, if we go to a back five, Joe Scally can play as a right center back. He can do a job there. But for what Pochettino is asking from his fullbacks, I don't believe he sees Joe Scally as an option, and I think he sees Alex Freeman as somebody that he really trusts in that position. Now, we're going to start to get into some players here who haven't always been selected by Pochettino, but to me, the talent and the way and the consistency that they're playing in top five leagues puts them in a position where they have to be in this squad. And for me, Mark McKenzie is one of those guys. Mark McKenzie is the third best center back in the U.S. pool right now. He is a player who potentially needs to start at the World Cup depending on where Tim Ream's legs are. Mark McKenzie is just too good to not be in this squad, and I was shocked to not see him in the September roster. It made no sense for Tristan Blackman to play both those matches when Mark McKenzie needed those minutes. And Mark McKenzie, to me, has potential to be a starter if we go to that back five. And I'm going to show you why in a little bit. But Mark McKenzie has all the tools to play as a center back. He's comfortable in playing in a back five. He does it with Toulouse. This is a player who is one of the captains of a team in the top five leagues. He is a center back that absolutely needs to be in the squad. And right now I have him as an at-large bid, even though he wasn't in this most recent roster and didn't play much at the Gold Cup. I'm really hoping that that changes as we move forward here over the next few months. Another player who, to me, is just one of the most talented players in the entire pool and playing consistently for a top five league team is Tanner Tessman. Tanner Tessman is somebody who can fix a lot of the big issues we have when we play in a back four, and somebody that, as he continues to supremely succeed at Lyon, as he has to start this season, playing as that lone six, playing in between the center backs in possession, a player that absolutely needs to be in the side. Now, as you can see at these at-large bids, I'm kind of going in order of likelihood of making the team. These players, Musa, Ream, Luna, 99% chance. Cardoso, 96% chance. Then I think these fullbacks are probably taking it down to like 80, 75% chance. McKenzie and Tessman, I think, are like 60% chance. They're obviously super likely to make the squad, but they're not being selected by Pochettino a lot as of late. And there seems to be a bit of an MLS quota that, I don't know if in this video I'm going to reach. And these are players that could be ones that are not selected due to that MLS quota. Now, Tanner Tessman is just way too good to not be in this U.S. men's national team squad. And I hope that I'm wrong that he's at risk, but there's certainly a chance he's not in the side. One more outfield player for these at-large bids, and at the moment for me, that is Damian Downs. Damian Downs has shown under Pochettino that he's the type of player that Mauricio likes as a striker, a channel runner, a player who can win aerial duels, who can knock down balls, who win second balls, who can play in any game state, which I think is a super important part for strikers in this roster. Pepe, Balogun, Downs, all really good at playing, chasing the game, or in a match where you're trying to hold the ball when you are winning a match. Really good game changers. All three of them good channel runners. All three have similar characteristics. You want to bring strikers who all match each other. Obviously, they all offer little different things here and there, but the athleticism, the physicality, the way to move around, the defense, those three players offer that in a way that other strikers in this pool do not. So right now I have Damian Downs as an at-large bid. I'm fairly certain I had him in the first four out in the last video. So big ups for Damian Downs. And again, he's one of those players to me who Pochettino clearly really likes, so I've added him in here. Now we've got to talk about some of our goalkeepers, right? It seems as of right now that the number one goalkeeper is Matt Freese. It really does. Matt Freese was really solid against South Korea and Japan. He was really solid in the Gold Cup. Listen, he doesn't offer a whole bunch with the ball at his feet. But in comparison to the other guys, it's not that different. And I think he's in the best form. He has the most confidence. And that's what you need in a major tournament. You just need a goalkeeper in good form. They don't have to be the best in the world. Think about Guillermo Ochoa all those years in the World Cup, how good he's been. He's never been a top 15 goalkeeper in the world, but a goalkeeper with confidence who has the trust of his teammates is the most important thing. And to me, that's where Matt Freese is. And of course, Matt Turner. Matt Turner is going to make this squad. He's probably more of a lock than Matt Freese is to make this squad. But at the moment, he's not the starting goalkeeper. So I've put him in the at-large bids, but it goes without saying, the experience and all that, he will certainly make this squad. And I think my third goalkeeper is going to surprise people because he hasn't been selected as of late. But again, I'm going to go with experience and a player, if he had to be called upon, has been there before, has played in big tournaments, has worn this crest on his chest and done it proudly. That's Ethan Horvath. I know that's going to surprise people. I know it. I understand that people are not expecting Ethan Horvath to necessarily be in the squad. Maybe it'll be Patrick Schulte, maybe it'll be Zach Steffen. But I think it's got to be someone who could really step in if need be. That's what you need out of your backup goalkeepers. And Ethan Horvath is that player to me. All right, we've moved on to the more contentious part of the program here, and that's our last four in. Now, there are some big names here that haven't been selected yet. And there are also some positions where we need some more players. Now, this, again, has to do with squad building. I'm not picking the best 26. You need a certain amount of defenders, midfielders, attackers, goalkeepers. You're going to bring three goalkeepers. That doesn't mean I wanted Ethan Horvath, but you need to bring three goalkeepers. Now, the first player in my last four in, and I think this will surprise some people, but we're short on center backs. You can't bring three center backs. Even four may be a little bit short, but we're definitely going to bring at least four. And as much as this is a player I'm not a huge fan of, it's somebody that has the experience, has been there before, has played in big tournaments for the U.S., and someone, if you had to rely on, you could be trusted. And it's Cameron Carter-Vickers. Listen, I am not a fan of Cameron Carter-Vickers, but he plays for Celtic in the Champions League year after year. He's played for the U.S. men's national team more than a handful of times, has played with Richards, he's played with Ream. He knows the players, he knows the system. He's a trusted voice in the camp. To me, Cameron Carter-Vickers is that fourth center back right now. I'd rather him over Tristan Blackman for sure. I'd rather him over Miles Robinson and Walker Zimmerman. So that really leaves him and Austin Trusty. I mean, I know people like George Campbell, but anyone who hasn't been selected really by Pochettino outside of that January camp, I'm not really considering. So for me, right now, it's Cameron Carter-Vickers. Then we're going to move on to wingers. I mentioned we really only have Tim Weah as a true out-and-out winger. And this player isn't necessarily an out-and-out winger, but he's comfortable playing out wide. He can be trusted as a striker, and he's in really good form right now. And he scores crucial goals, and that's Haji Wright. Haji Wright absolutely, to me, deserves to be in this squad. I talk about Haji Wright more than any player who doesn't play for Pochettino. I just have always really liked the player. He offers a little bit different dynamic than anybody else that we have. A great inside forward, a great goal scorer, an awesome penalty taker, and somebody who just seemingly always gets looked over. But to me, Haji Wright will change that with his season at Coventry and will be somebody that Pochettino has no choice but to take in this side, because he doesn't only do it for his club, he's always performed at the country level versus the likes of he who shall not be named on this channel without getting chirped by everybody, Josh Sargent. We got two more slots here, and I know there's some names people are waiting to hear and see, and I don't know if they're going to agree with necessarily who I choose. Next player for me is someone who, again, I like to have someone who offers a quality that nobody else does. And I've spoken about it a lot with Jack McGlynn. He just has a special bit of magic in his left foot, something that can change the state of the game. And again, I still don't know exactly how he fits in. He's not a winger. He doesn't have the ability to play in a double pivot. He can't play that deep. I like him if we're going to play with that 4, right? That kind of 4 across underneath the striker, that 3-2-4-1 in possession. I like his ability to kind of drop in on that right side when the 6 gets a little bit deeper, and then you've got a player on the left and on the right, and it allows McGlynn to play forward. It allows him to make those late runs in and around the box, to strike those shots cleanly like he did in that match against Japan. It's a 26-man squad. You're not going to have to rely on every player, but the fact that Jack McGlynn could come in and change a game, I love that about him. And then we've got one last slot. And even though I said I'm not moving him in to this team until I see him play, the fact that he got his move, the fact that he looked good in a friendly for Mönchengladbach, I'm going to put Gio Reyna in the squad. And I know I'm doing the opposite of what I said I was going to do. I'm not going to put Gio Reyna in until I see him play consistently. With a 26-man squad, with him getting the move to Gladbach, with him seemingly going to get the opportunity to play, Gio Reyna right now is in my last 4 in. Another player like McGlynn who offers something nobody else does. He doesn't work hard enough off the ball, but if we're going to play with 2 double 10s, Gio Reyna has the ability to be one of those players. And he's the most like for like with Malik Tillman that we have in terms of his ability on the ball. Now, Malik Tillman obviously brings a whole nother level to the game, off the ball, winning second balls, pressing, winning the ball high up the pitch, all the things Pochettino loves, and that's why Tillman's a lock and Gio Reyna's the last 4 in. But you can't leave Gio Reyna at home when you have a 26-man squad if he's going to get the opportunity to play for Gladbach this year. Now we've got a first 4 out, and there's some surprising names, as you can all see, not being in there. And I think for a lot of people, one of those is going to be Joe Scally. And Joe Scally, I didn't want to leave off. I wanted to include him. But the way that Pochettino trusts Alex Freeman and continues to turn to Alex Freeman and left Joe Scally at home here in this September camp, didn't include him in the Gold Cup. That to me is a sign of a changing of the guard, and for what Pochettino's asking out of his right back, Joe Scally doesn't fit the bill. Now, if we go to a back 5 in October and we start playing with that more consistently, we're going to need another defender, and you probably get rid of a midfielder or an attacker, and then Joe Scally gets in for me. I wouldn't be surprised if at that point Joe Scally gets in over a Jack McGlynn or potentially over Haji Wright. But right now I have Joe Scally on the outside looking in. A player who's moved up in my rankings, but still in this first 4 out, is Alex Zendejas. To me, Zendejas really showed something different in this match against Japan. And I don't mean just the great goal. The great goal is the great goal. You can't rely on that type of goal scoring, a left-footed volley. It's not going to happen all the time. But Zendejas works really hard out of possession. And if we're going to go play in that 5 at the back, and you need the more like-for-like players on that right-hand side, Zendejas can offer something. He works really hard. If you are trying to close out a match and you want to bring on an attacker who can press higher up the pitch, who needs to bring a burst of energy, Zendejas can add that. And so right now, if Zendejas gets another call-up, gets to continue to play, again, I don't like him more than Haji Wright. I love Haji Wright. I'd like to put Haji Wright in the locks category. But with the way Pochettino's choosing players, Zendejas gets into that first 4 out. Josh Sargent. Everybody loves Josh Sargent, but he hasn't scored a goal in 7 years for the U.S. men's, 6 years for the U.S. men's national team. It'll be 7 by the time the World Cup comes. Josh Sargent is first 4 out for me right now. And unless Balogun or Pepe gets injured, I don't think he has a chance. I still think we've seen the end of Josh Sargent. We saw it in the South Korea match. He just doesn't offer what Pochettino is looking for out of a striker. It's just strictly a tactical thing with Josh Sargent. If he's not scoring goals, he's a low-volume shooter who does not do what Pochettino needs out of his strikers. He does not run into the channels. He does not drag defenders around. He doesn't time his runs the way that Pochettino wants him to. He's a player who likes to hang around the edge of boxes, who likes to be a transition striker who gets the ball at the halfway line and runs with it. That's not what we need out of our strikers. So right now, Josh Sargent is on the outside looking in. And the last player in my first 4 out is Sebastian Berhalter. And again, similar to Zendejas, he's a player who Pochettino loves, continues to rely on. I wouldn't be surprised if he makes the squad over McGlynn. I wouldn't be surprised if he makes the squad over Yunus Musa. I wouldn't be surprised if he makes a squad over Johnny Cardoso. I don't agree with any of those decisions. I wouldn't be surprised if he makes a squad over Gio Reyna. But Pochettino clearly really likes the player and how hard he works. I don't agree with it, but right now he's still going to be in my first 4 out. I'm happy to not include Luca De La Torre in that first 4 out, which he was in last time, because it seemed as if in this camp, Pochettino has moved on from Luca De La Torre. So I have kept him out of this side. Some other names, I'm sure people are surprised not to see it all on this. Patrick Agyemang, neither of the Aronson brothers. Nathan Harriel, who continues to get called up. John Tolkien. Those players, none of them have made it into this 30-man list here. So for me, they're outside the top 30 right now. But that doesn't mean they don't have a chance of making the World Cup. Just right now, as of today, this is where we stand with the squad. Now, let's look at how we could line up. For me, this is the starting lineup right now, and I think it'll be pretty much what most people expect, maybe outside of this midfield. Freeze, Dest, Richards, Ream, and Anthony. That's your back five. Cardoso and Tessman is my double pivot, and I will show you why. I've showed it 100 times. People agree with me. Some people don't, but I'll show you why when we're in possession. And this is my attacking four. Pulisic off the left, Tillman through the middle, way off the right, and Balogun up top. I think this is pretty much most people's starting 11s. The only difference is this 4 midfielders that you see here, Adams, McKennie, Tessman, Cardoso. I think people are going to switch around in 100 different ways. But in possession, I think this is the best that we can look. And this is how it would look to me with this specific formation. You've got Weah holding the width on the right. Tillman and Pulisic are going to be your double 10s here in the half spaces. You'll have Anthony as kind of your your pseudo left winger in possession. Ream, you get high and wide as a center back. Richards, you'll get high and wide as a center back. Then you have Tessman drop in between the two of them. We've seen this a lot for him at Lyon. He's very comfortable getting there. And the great part is him and Cardoso can alternate doing this, right? Cardoso is also super comfortable doing this. So if it's Cardoso who drops in, then Dest will pop here, Tessman here, right? We've seen this a lot where it's kind of a double pivot. But when you play in possession, what will happen is Cardoso or Tessman will come all the way deep into the box on a goal kick, right? Like I like to show it from basically start. Then you get Tessman will drop in here, Dest comes here, and it allows Pulisic to get into left half spaces here and be that trigger of the mini transitions that we saw against Japan. And it can work either way, right? Cardoso and Tessman are both comfortable doing that. I think Cardoso's a little bit more comfortable, a little bit deeper. He likes to pass looking forward, receive the ball looking forward, whereas Tessman is better at receiving the ball here and turning and playing forward. But they're both comfortable doing both. And in this situation, it's the same thing. Cardoso can kind of anchor here. Dest gets into this little inverted right back position where he can also be, if the ball comes here, the ball can come into Dest. Weah can hold the width. Tillman can get more central, right? And Dest can make this run into here the way Pulisic makes this run into here. Tillman wants to be super central. Weah wants to be super wide. So it allows for all of those things to happen. Whereas when it's Adams isn't super comfortable playing this deep. He doesn't like to turn and run. Adams likes to be more in this position. And then who do you have here? So that's why Cardoso and Tessman work best for me. That's the lineup for me when we're in this formation. Now, we saw Pochettino go to a back five in the match against Japan, right? And that's where I think things could get really interesting in terms of what the lineup looks like. And that's where Mark McKenzie comes into play. I mentioned this in my last video after the win against Japan. If we're going to go for this back five, you need Chris Richards to be that kind of wider right center back. And that means that Mark McKenzie needs to play centrally. And to me, it's perfect because what you want out of your left center back and right center back in a back five is players who are happy to be wide, who can defend wide, but in possession can make this pass this way on the ground, who are really comfortable breaking the lines on the ground. And both Ream and Richards are our best center backs at doing that. What you want out of your central center back in Mark McKenzie is somebody who has accuracy to spray the ball and play the ball over the top with both feet. And that perfectly describes Mark McKenzie. This formation works perfectly with these 3 players at the back. Then when you're playing like this, right, this completely changes the way you're trying to build up. So the way it would look for a lot of the time is you'd probably get McKenzie here in the build-up. You get Richards high and wide here, Ream high and wide there. Then Adams, who's more comfortable being here and receiving the ball. McKennie can drop into this position in possession. He's comfortable picking the ball up here, turning and running with it. It can be Tessman as well. either or can work here depending on the type of match you're playing. I think McKennie is super strong in a back five formation. He always has shown that for Juventus. He's shown that throughout his career. And again, you're still able to get Pulisic in this area. Antony can get even higher and wider, and Pulisic can have more room to operate in. Antony is comfortable coming and dropping a little bit deeper, whereas Arfsen really is not. And Pulisic can hold the width. It works on both sides. It allows Dest to really operate with a lot of freedom as well, right? Because if Adams drops here, Dest can get into this position. Dest can hold the width, allowing Tillman to be in the more central areas. I think we're going to see Pochettino experiment with this in the next camp, assuming these players are all fit and with the team. I really do think this is what Pochettino may move forward with, especially when these March friendlies where it might be Portugal, Belgium, France. I know we're rumored to play all of these teams. You may see him go to this setup a little bit more. And as you can see, kind of the backup options, I think Gio Reyna will be way better in this type of formation with as more of like an inside forward, not a player who wants to get super wide at all and have these fullbacks higher and wider. I think Diego Luna would struggle a little bit more in this five situation. I think Tim Weah would struggle a little bit more. He's not a player who's super comfortable here, but this formation is a little bit more comfortable for Jack McGlynn. Now, if you go back here, there's a lot of like for likes that make a lot of sense. Diego Luna is really good at getting back into these half spaces and dribbling and carrying with the ball in the half turn. That's where he's at best. He doesn't want to be a wide player, whereas here you'd be asked to play a little bit more wide in that back five. Tim Weah, obviously better for this situation. Yunus Musa, really comfortable here, right? What we've seen sometimes with Yunus Musa is you could see Dest kind of being this wider player and Musa dropping in here to this kind of diamond midfield at times as well. So a more comfortable position for Musa as well in this position if he were to play instead of Tim Weah. So a lot of different options here for the side. That's Yanks Abroad. That is the stock watch, the who's in, the who's out of the U.S. men's national team for the 2026 World Cup after the September camp. We'll continue to do these after every single camp leading up to the World Cup, so make sure to hit the subscribe button. And next week, we'll be back with keeping up with our players and how they're doing for the European clubs and how it fits into the U.S. men's national team, how it changes what we're looking at right here and how it impacts it. So thanks so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button. Give us a like. Really helps the channel. Every like and comment. Really appreciate all the new followers. I'm Will Balsam, and this is Yanks Abroad, and we'll talk to you next week.